Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of agave, art, being yourself, being dedicated to working hard, and so much more. Today, we're chatting with Dani Taylan from Fortaleza, one of their great brand ambassadors who I've had the privilege of knowing for some time now, but I was just down at the Fortaleza industry trip there, Orete and Don Fulano as well, in late October for Dia de los Muertos, and it was great, and I got to talk to Guillermo. There's an interview coming out. We get to finally talk about Dani's life. She hadn't done a podcast before. Y'all surprised, too? Because I was like, what? I figured somebody would want to put a microphone in front of you. What a story, what a journey, and the stuff she's doing with Fortaleza and Condesa Gin is really, really inspiring. So wait for the end of the interview, and I will cover all of the 2024 Winter Blend specs. We covered it a little bit in the conversation itself, but there's a little more specificity that I'll cover at the end of the episode. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this great chat with Dani Taylan.
It's kind of strange, because at least I've always said, I'm very transparent. Yeah. But I think when it comes to my personal life, I'm not that transparent unless I maybe know the person or I just feel very close to them, or maybe the questions asked. That's another thing. Sometimes people don't ask those questions.
They don't.
Yeah.
Have you done podcasts before?
No, I have not.
This surprises me. Yeah. Because when I was talking to you on the Fortaleza trip, there was so much shit that you've done. And then this is me saying it. You don't have to say I'm so great and all this. It's not really the point. But the term media ready.
I mean, I did get my media training, I want to say 4 years ago, but it went in one ear and out the other.
Well,
I was like, what?
What I'm trying to say is that you're media ready, right? The messaging, and you're real, but you have this way of communicating that I think is incredibly rich. But I guess to your point too, people don't really ask the right questions sometimes.
Yeah, or they don't ask at all, to be honest.
Is that right?
Yeah. If they ask, or I feel sometimes people might be afraid to ask.
Oh. Because of your confidence and kind of the way that you represent yourself, or just in general?
I think in general. I think people are afraid, or maybe it's something, I mean, I've learned this about myself within some time, that maybe in the past I gave more of an aggressive kind of vibe, maybe, or just kind of don't ask me something stupid, and that was never the case. But I can understand why someone's like, I just don't want to ask the wrong question. And the thing is that there is no wrong questions. There's also no wrong answers.
We both agree on that.
Yeah.
Because
you know how many times I've been told, you have a very strong personality, and they've never spoken to me. It's just based off of or being around, and then they go out with me and I'm just like, what are you having? What can I get you? And my thing is taking care of someone this. And they're like, I didn't expect this. I'm having so much fun. And I'm like, well, welcome to my world. If you don't ask me, I'm not gonna, be like, hey, check up on everyone. I mean, when I'm working, of course I am, but I can be sitting at a bar and someone's like, the next day, I saw you there and I wanted to say hi, and I just felt really weird. And I'm like, come say hi.
That's so strange.
I could have sent you a bunch of shots and then you would have known what I'm known for. Yeah.
There's something for me that as I get older, really is maybe a fear. That could be too strong a word. I've had this conversation with Kay a couple times, but I don't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah, for sure.
And so do you feel, because you're talking about people that construe you in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe in a way where there's so much confidence, or you're so enigmatic that they're like, well, shit, I can't even talk to Dani, right? Do you feel that people generally understand you?
No, maybe I can count the people that can with one hand, to be honest. But I mean, that has to do with me, right? Because if I'm not sharing and if I'm not being super vocal about my private life, then that could be one of those things.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, and I also can't say I'm an open book because of that. So it's kind of hard because I feel like I am, But then, I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm like, wait, you're not. And when we were chatting earlier, I was like, oh my God, you're not an open book. Like,
well, it's interesting that, at least in my perception, I think you're more open than maybe you think you are, or maybe I have the privilege of having times where we've had real conversations and stuff. That's the thing I can never really tell, is that how people talk about other people that I have known and have had really great conversations with, and like, where are we talking about the same person?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I guess it's a different kind of thing. I do know something, and I think that this is true about you, and I'll tie back something we talked about before recording, but is work, all right, so you're in a, we talk about Chris for a second. I think he's a great guy. Really, like, warm, and I like spending time with him in Guadalajara and getting to know him better and stuff. Just really nice and open. So I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I love this couple, right? And you work a lot and you post things. Do you find that you compartmentalize the parts of your life? So you got work, multiple, you got Condesa, you got Fortaleza, you got Barbarella, you got art, you got all this other stuff.
Just Condesa and Fortaleza. Okay. And my tasting room. That's it.
But you did do that painting, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to go redo it, basically. I did it about 8 years ago for them.
Oh, when you were, because you did used to work there, right? Not any longer. But,
I used to work there. Chris is running it now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I used to work there. I did the sign, and then with time, it just got super faded. And then they're like, "Hey, can we bring back the original artist?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm down."
What? Okay.
Yeah, I'm down to be 30 feet up in the air.
It looks amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a contract job, let's say.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's short lived, but with a lot of different things. And are you pretty good about keeping work separate from home?
Yes.
Home. Is that important to you to make sure that work doesn't come into?
It is very important. I mean, we all work with very heavy things sometimes, or we're around a lot of people that are going through a lot of stuff. And the one thing that I learned is that I never want that to enter like my front door. I don't want that to be home. I don't want to go to sleep with stress that doesn't belong to me. I don't want my partner to carry that either. And I feel that if I feel some type of way, it's going to transcend. And the last thing I want to do is pile up more things to that. So I make it a thing of, is it getting in the way of anything that I'm doing?
Yeah.
Is there, if it is, how can I fix it? All right, if we can fix it, let's go ahead and go back to it the next day when I'm stepping out of here. Home is, I'm hardly home, to be honest.
Sure.
I am in every city every week. And when I'm not here, I am in Guadalajara. So the time that I am home, I want to make sure to respect the home. And also like my pups, like I don't want them to be like worried or any of that. And also like my partner, it's a sign of respect for me, at least when I come home, and leaving everything behind me, even if it's for those 10, 12 hours.
So, my dad, I had a conversation with him recently. Things get more real as you get older with your folks, as you, I'm sure, can imagine. And things are obviously accelerated and expedited emotionally when you have a few drinks. And he said something to me I thought was kind of incredible, because we're just real, right? Like, like that, we've had a very rocky upbringing and all that, but he told me, he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could have been around more, but I just chose to work instead. And I was like, well, at least that's honest, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever have those moments where you're like, well, maybe I don't have to work as much. Maybe I can be more present with the pups and with the partner.
Yeah, I do, to be honest. I just had it recently, actually, for Thanksgiving. We've never been a family that celebrates Thanksgiving.
Interesting.
I grew up in Mexico, Monterrey, Nuevo León. And my mom was very adamant of when we came to not changing our traditions. And it wasn't really a tradition. It was just, we would get together every weekend. We would be grilling. We would be your typical carne asada family.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have some drinks. We're going to watch a fight. We were all very close. And coming over and seeing the customs of like, you get together once a year and everyone celebrates like that one gathering.
Yeah.
For us, it was a little abnormal because we were doing it every weekend. Or we were doing it every Friday, or like you would call them, and even like my brothers with their girlfriends or their wives at the time, and it was just like, where are you at today? Where you want to like hang out? And it was weird because at the time I didn't think anything of it, but now being where I'm at, it's so rare to actually get together. And I think to myself, I'm like, what the hell happened? Or like, did we just all get so invested in work and what's going on? And we all sat down, we're all chatting, and everyone's just like, we call you and we have to ask, like, where are you at right now? Like, what part of like the city or like what side of the world
right?
are you at? And I laughed at it. I thought it was a joke, but then I was really thinking about it, like, you know, when I went home and I'm like, damn, maybe it's time to slow down, maybe just a little bit and go spend some time with them or even to messaging them. Cause we're all in a group chat and we talk to each other all the time and they'll send me really dumb TikToks. And I don't have a TikTok. So I'm just like, I'm sending them laughing reactions and I can't even open it because I don't have it.
That's
like the one time I looked at it, I was like, I don't understand any of this. No, send me codes or something so I can be like, okay, that's funny. But yeah, I think that maybe it would be nice to slow down a little. But as much as I say that and I can feel that, I know I'm gonna drive myself nuts if I do.
Do you know the feeling? And I use this is probably the fifth time I've used this over 10 years in this podcast. You know when you're doing a light jog on a treadmill?
Yeah.
And you got that momentum, you step off and your legs are still moving, but they're not moving.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I have downtime.
That's yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, what am I doing for the tasting room? What am I doing for the distillery? What am I doing for work? What am I doing for my relationship? It's hard.
It is.
Which brings me to another question in terms of physical things, whether it's yoga or meditation. Do you have that balance too, to kind of create a little more inner, maybe emotional balance or peace? Mindfulness, I guess, is a good word for it.
My mindfulness honestly comes from drives. I love. I mean, this is the reason why, honestly, I got a Bronco. Because I was like, buy world.
The Fortaleza Bronco, if I'm looking at
Bronco. No, Fortaleza did not buy me that Bronco, guys.
They did
everyone
not. No,
asks.
Of course. They don't have money. I mean, some money, but not like that.
Everyone asks, and they're like, what do I have to do to get that car? And I'm like, work, maybe. Yeah, no, my thing is, I love kind of being on the road, to be honest.
Yeah.
As much as sometimes I'm like, well, what city am I in this week? The idea of just doing that drive, and I always do these drives really late at night when everything is quiet and everyone is asleep. Like when we come back from Tales of the Cocktail, I usually leave like at 2 a.m.
Really?
And do that 5-hour drive, like listening to either a podcast or just like some jazz music or just sometimes even in silence, to be honest.
Sure.
I love that drive. Like that gives me so much peace. Like silence gives me so much peace.
That's beautiful.
And I love it. And before joining the industry, what I would do is I would drive to Galveston every weekend and then just sit there through the night and just listen to the water. Water to me is so calming.
Yeah.
Like just hearing it, and I love it. Like even when I would go to sleep, like Chris always thought this was weird because he's like, "Why are you sleeping? Like listening to white noise?" Sounds. And I'm like, "It's a wave, okay."
Yeah.
But no,
I can get behind that. Like
I love it. I love silence. I love, you know, what my favorite thing is sitting with someone that you appreciate, whether it be your partner, a family member, a friend, even more special when you haven't seen them in a while, but just sitting there in silence. I adore that so much. That's my love language.
It's, you know, what's interesting about that is let's just take partners for a moment.
Yeah.
The ability to be engaged.
Yeah.
And the ability to be disengaged, but exist together.
Yes.
I say they're probably equally important.
Yeah.
That you can go on an 8-hour drive, for instance, be engaged, be like, cool, we're fine.
Yeah.
And the silence is golden as well. I mean, I don't even get me into Depeche Mode lyrics, but yeah. but the silence is a big thing. So I'm with you. So in a way, it sounds like you have integrated mindfulness and integrated quiet into your day kind of regularly.
Yes. I mean, it took some time, to be honest. If I would have known this, maybe when I first started, I've been in this industry for, I want to say 12 years now, almost going on 13. If I would have known that this was going to create more peace and a healthier lifestyle and just more mindfulness in general, I would have taken that with me in my very early stages of it. Because I think the early stages of me jumping in on this industry was having fun. And, you know, we don't know, starting as a bartender, I didn't know what the hell I was serving. And that's what made me jump in full on of, wait, they're asking me questions that I don't have answers to.
Yeah.
How am I able to give them another option other than like, well, I have this behind the bar. You don't like this one, let me go down the next in line.
Yeah.
And it made me curious to kind of understand, like, what are you pouring? What are you serving? What's behind this? Like, if they wanted an alternative to this. And at the time, you didn't have a lot of people, but maybe those 3 people that I had within that full year really made me dig into like, I want to have an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
And for a really long time, it was just like, nah, it doesn't matter. They can get something else. They can get something else, you know? And then I put myself in that position of like, what if I was curious? Can someone answer my questions?
Do you find this, because we'll get into the Fortaleza chapter here shortly, but it makes me think of tequila influencers a little bit and people that want to bash you over the head with their quote unquote knowledge.
Yeah.
Wisdom is truly knowledge, but knowing bullet points about production or what additives and stuff are used. So when you talk about your curiosity for information about spirits in particular,
Yes.
to me, you feel like someone that wants to share these things on an
Yes.
equal ground.
If I'm asked. That's
If
the
you're
only
asked,
time.
exactly. No one needs to know what we know,
asked.
right?
Yes.
Do you find one being in the world of tequila, one of the
Mm-hmm.
most popular and probably revered, it's like the sub pop records of the 90s, Fortaleza is, of today.
Did you hear that, guys? We're the Backstreet Boys. Yes.
Oh.
Sorry, Steph.
No. Yeah. Do people question you? These people, like influencers, do they test you because they have some weaponized knowledge? I think you're cool, and I think you create a very even keeled. Have you experienced that though in tastings and stuff? People try to one up you with their
Not
knowledge?
at all. You know, I expected that for the longest, but obviously the minute they see the patch or they see the brand, it becomes it's a little strange sometimes, you know. It becomes one of those like, can we take a picture? Can we send this picture?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, huh? But I mean, I'll do it. You know, they're really nice. They're friendly.
Mm.
I actually get sometimes the questions from people that aren't even in industry.
Oh, cool.
That they're more like, all we've ever seen is like the guys. So what do you know? Or you know, it's that, but it's not from the influencers.
It's not.
It's not,
Which
from
is
the
good.
influencers.
Most of we talk about Lucas and Doug and stuff. They're great.
Great
pros and
guys.
stuff.
Great guys.
Yeah, but sometimes I hear that, especially from my close women friends that are whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Whiskey is a dreadful place sometimes for men to just come in and be like, yeah, but what mash bill does it have? And then to myself, I think, is this what matters to your life?
Yeah.
Is this what this is what defines you? Stumping a woman or trying to stump a woman? But I'm glad that you don't see that kind of.
Yeah.
In the
I
industry.
honestly thought I was going to, and I kind of expected it, which kind of adds in this. I mean, at the time, it was a little bit of the weight of I need to learn every single thing, even the questions that have not been asked or that could potentially be asked. And then I was like, let me think of like something dumb or something weird or something strange that has nothing to do with this, but could be asked to have that answer. Because I felt like that was going to happen. I mean, I can feel very confident and say this is a predominantly like male, you know, like industry. And it's really hard coming in when all your colleagues are like these, you know, tough, you know, they're amazing. I love them to death.
Yeah. And
I wouldn't change anything about any of them, even Kobe's terrible dad jokes. But, you know, it felt like at that moment, is it going to be one of those things that's just like, well, what are you bringing to the table? And I'm like, you know what? I'm bringing a lot to the fucking table.
Awesome.
I know where I'm at. And they've never once, it was just me in my head for that, maybe that second. They've never once made me feel like that. You know, it was just these buildups because I've seen out in industry where sometimes, you know, like you said, someone in whiskey.
We had a conversation about that.
And I've seen it and I'm like, fuck, like, is that maybe how I'm seen, but like in a different spirit category? Like, you know, what's going on? And I've been very fortunate to not have to deal with that. And if I have, maybe it's been twice within my entire like career.
I'm so glad to hear that, right? Because it's just a different kind of reaction. I would love to think that tequila is softening in some sense, right? But the bourbon world is where it's all weaponized. This knowledge is weaponized. It's like, yeah, but there's like 1,000 whiskeys and you like 5 of them. What does that really say about you, right?
Hey, and if you like 5, power to you. If you like those 5, but learn, you know, like pick up another one. Like if you like some notes in this one, there's something similar to that.
Always.
Yeah.
If you lack curiosity, what do you have?
Yeah. You know, yesterday I did a staff training and I got a little nervous for a second. I haven't had that in a while.
Really? Here in Austin?
Yeah, here in Austin. I did a staff training and it was for 12 people and they were all male.
Okay.
And I was like, maybe they're expecting like the guys to come in and, you know, do this training or They were so respectful. It was a lot. It was an older crowd though. It was like
Oh.
it was 45 and up. So I was just
Wow,
like,
that's
here comes
cool.
this girl, you know, and is about to talk to you about like the production, the process,
Mhm.
and just talk to you why it is that this is so why we don't have stock right now.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that I talked to them about, one of the guys immediately was like, the only reason I came to this like training was because I know that the juice is good and I want to drink before my shift. And I just started laughing because I was just like, okay, you know, it's easing everything up. Everyone
Mhm.
was laughing and they just looked so like serious. And in that moment, I was just like, is this maybe when I walk in, they're just like, you know, why does she look like,
Uh-huh.
is she serious? Is she, and then like you get to talk to me and it's just like, you know, let's just have a conversation on it.
Yeah.
But it ended up being like a really good chat. I was like, how do I put so much respect and do this for my people back home in 25 minutes? Because its staff training was 25 minutes.
Mhm.
So it's like, you know, you see the guys talking, they can go to 45 minutes to an hour and a half. If it's a master class, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard master class term 24/7 now.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't do a master class. You'd be surprised. But a 25-minute like staff training, but it was all males. And when I saw the room, I got a little nervous because I was like, I felt for that second, I'm like, they're gonna be digging. They're gonna ask me
Mm.
like what is the Celsius on this, or like you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
questions like out of the blue. Like it brought me back to like seeing people out in the industry when they would be talking about whiskey or they're
Yeah.
talking about like vodka, and the vodka people sometimes have it rough because they're like, what makes it so special about you being distilled 24 times? Or, you know, they're just
Yes.
people sometimes make some comments. And I was like, am I about to walk into this? And I'm here with the distributor. Like, no, it ended up being really good. And I was just like, it was nice to have that moment because I hadn't had that in such a long time.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right, we're still the same. Like, we're
Yeah.
good.
The fame hasn't changed you at all.
No, what fame? What are you talking about? I was in
So,
Guadalajara and someone goes, I know you from somewhere. You're an influencer. I was like, excuse
ooh,
me.
wow. Those are fighting words, aren't they?
They were fighting words. So what I did, I ordered her an overproof and she was like, and I'm like, you're welcome. But
When I-
no.
Fuck, man. When I went into, and I love the Patron guys. I've known David Allen for a long, long time.
Roberto's
And
phenomenal.
I
too.
love Roberto and Andrew, like the whole team over there. And the thing that was funny is, I don't really care where I fit into this
Yeah.
industry. I just do the kind of thing I want to do, and the experiences I've had, I'm incredibly grateful for. However, they had to slot me because I'm not a bartender, although I have a bar quote unquote, and I have a distillery and stuff. They put me on the influencer strip, and I'm like, for a moment,
You're like, I'm going to fight.
we can talk about moments that were very tense
Uh-huh.
on some other time, but I thought to myself, like, oh no.
Yeah.
Is
That's
this,
what I said.
Is this what I've become?
That's what I said. I was out with the El Gallo guys too when I was
Yeah.
over there. And then, you know, Freddie and Alan. And Alan was like, you're an influencer. I was like, shut the. And I was like, absolutely not, sir. I was like, I just live my life and talk about tequila and gin, and that's it. I was
Yeah.
just like, you can't, I mean, I'm also very private. So I feel like, I don't know, like, I don't feel like an influencer at all. I don't want to be an influencer. No offense to the influencers out there. Like, you do your thing.
But you know what the saddest thing, or maybe the best thing is? I'm gonna go back to this question about being misunderstood. At the end of the day, we don't get a say in what people interpret us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So people think you're tough, you are tough. They think
Yeah.
I'm standoffish, which I am not.
Yeah.
They think I'm standoffish. And that's okay. Because if you sit down with me for 30 minutes, you realize I am a dad, not a dad that makes dad jokes. So that's it. And talks about horror movies. And what I would get the most gratitude and satisfaction from is talking about horror movies. Like, honestly, it's probably the greatest thing. We can talk about mezcal and stuff, that's fine. But
Yeah.
horror movies, like, that's where it's at for me. But, you know, I was curious because growing up in Monterrey,
Yeah.
why did the family make the trek to, because Texas, was it Klein, Texas that y'all moved to, or was it
So it's 8 hours away.
Oh.
My dad was a doctor.
Oh.
And he just wanted to kind of, his family was in Houston.
Oh, cool.
So he's like, hey, I kind of want to move over there. What do you guys think? And I mean, my relatives that are a lot older, they fully on were born and raised there.
Yeah.
I was born there and I got to spend, I mean, I was there for a while and I got to spend like my summers. Every summer I would go back
Oh, cool.
because my mom was very adamant about like, you're Spanish, you're
Mhm,
Spanish, you're
mhm.
Spanish. And moving was very different. Very,
How
very
old roughly
different.
were you when you moved?
I was a teenager.
Oh,
I mean, a little.
shit, that
I mean,
far?
in and out. Not like, well, we left like when I was around like 8,
Okay,
but back and forth, but then fully made that merge
I
like
see.
a little bit older,
Was it high school years or middle school?
middle school, like
Okay.
the end of middle school.
Yeah.
Because I even at that, whenever we attempted it at first, I got to do a little bit of elementary and then back, like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And then everyone just got super settled, but it was very different. Like it was something very different, but my dad was very happy, and my dad had his businesses. He opened up 4 businesses over here, and he left from being a doctor and then just focused on that.
Really?
And
What types of businesses? Just
so
curious.
you guys are gonna laugh, but if you know me, one thing that everyone knows is the botanical shops. So we
Mm.
have like the herbs, like all that stuff. Since over there in Mexico, from my dad's side, they're very into like medicinal things.
Really?
So my dad wanted to launch that in Houston. He's like, hey, I'm curious. And being a doctor, he's just like, hey. And my brother was studying to be a doctor in Monterrey. And it just made sense to him. And he opened up a bunch of those.
That's
Like his
very
thing was like, if
interesting.
I pass, each one of you guys gets one, which now mine is like my tasting room.
Oh, I didn't know
Well,
So
it's my sister's, but she's
but
just
still,
like,
but
yeah.
the same locate. This
Yeah.
is all coming together.
Yeah. So I told my sister, I was like, while you are doing like the medicinal part of the herbs, the back is my
Interesting.
/ alcoholic / medicinal side.
Well, and then I mean, we'll talk about the crossover to gin. Gin is very medicinal. I mean, so
Yeah.
is agave, but it must have felt relatively familiar to
Yeah.
be working with a product that has all these botanicals that you probably have in the shop and all of that.
Yeah. Loved it. I mean, that it was strange, but it's different. Mexico's very different for sure.
Yes.
Miss
And
it.
I had a conversation about he doesn't call himself a tea master because by trade he's not, but he was from China and he came in and we were talking and he says, yeah, China and Mexico have way more in common than the United States and Mexico do. I was like, duly noted. You're
Yeah.
absolutely yeah.
That's why I'm over there every month.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I just get some food?
Yeah, exactly.
Though Houston has great food. Not
It
gonna
does
lie.
better than Austin for sure. And don't let anybody in here. Well, oh, I just recorded. Well, they're gonna have to deal with that shit.
I didn't say it, guys. I actually
I
stayed
said
quiet
it.
on this one. I was smart. I'm kidding.
So, through high school, too, some of the stuff that I was able to. This is not unearthing things with a detective or anything like that, but French fan. You love French movies, French language.
Mhm.
Which bit? All the whole culture, Francophile, I'd say.
Well, I had to. High school forces you over here to
Oh, right.
study some sort of like foreign language, and I don't know why I chose French.
Mm.
I mean, my option was Spanish for Spanish speakers or French. So I mean, I guess I know now why.
Yeah.
And I went into that and I just kind of liked it. I liked it that I couldn't understand anything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe this is how people feel when, someone comes to visit Mexico and
Oh.
they talk so fast.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. I was like, I like it. I want to learn it. And I was in it for maybe 2 years. I just remember the basics, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh, same. I took French for 2 years, and I knew a few numbers when I was in Paris one year, and I was like, I think I helped. I don't know exactly.
But it's so weird though, because I remember, I think it was like, no, it wasn't it was like maybe 2011 at Barbarella. There was this French girl that came in. Wherever you're at, shout out to you. But she came in and she was so drunk and fighting. And I had had a couple of drinks and she slapped one of our door guys.
Mm.
And I don't know where, somehow I started talking like a little bit. And I was just like, wait, what? And I was like, so you do remember? I don't know what I said though. She didn't slap me, so I don't know what I said.
You say
But
whatever you want. They
yeah,
don't
you
slap
can say whatever you want at that time, at that point. But yeah, no, I was just like, maybe with drinks, I guess some words come back or some things come back.
At least the
Mhm.
reticence to talk in another language goes
Yeah.
away.
I mean, if I went to Klein Forest High School, if
Mhm.
they would have maybe thrown at like a German course, I probably would have taken that. I
Gotcha.
love the view of Berlin. I love how Germany, like everything Germany, dude. Like,
Really?
yeah.
You know what my last name is? Oh, you have to, I guess, because it was on the itinerary. But like, you actually say it like Gruner. You can't get more German than that shit.
I said Groner. Oh
no,
no,
no. I don't want
Terrible.
anyone. I don't want anyone to know my last name.
Too
Two.
late.
Too late. But it's not really my last name. There's a nice story about that. My mom trying to protect me from a very powerful family that my father abandoned me and stuff. So wait for the novelization of that here at some point. But but yeah, German things. I guess I'm German, so maybe we have more in common than I thought.
Let's go.
Yeah, well,
let's
we should
go. I kept telling the guys, I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go to Berlin.
Yes.
I'm ready. I don't know. I like it. I mean, obviously, we're not aware. We're not living there, so we see a different side.
Oh, sure.
Like,
we can romanticize it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, looking now, what my dad was seeing, like with over here, I was just like, okay. And now getting to see like from both ends, I'm like, all right. I'm like, is this what I'm seeing in Berlin? But I don't want to like see that, so I'm just like, I'll be there.
I got the rosy colored glasses over here. We can keep.
I'll wear them. I will wear them. Probably end up in someone's basement. Would be like, please don't put me in a basement.
Stop playing hardcore music, please. No.
Love it.
Or industrial music. Thespian club. So
yes.
When you talk about like high school creative mind or analytical, mathematical history mind?
I was a theater geek.
Yeah, I thought so.
I was actually in the Thespian Honor Society. I was an officer. It's crazy. I think it's so wild because earlier we were talking and I told you I've had times where people are like, you're very antisocial. And I'm like, I'm actually not. My job is to be social.
Yeah.
And I myself, at least on a personal level, will see sometimes that maybe I'm not that open. But now, like, I'm going back to everything I've done through high school, and I did everything. I mean, I was in varsity soccer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I actually got a scholarship through soccer.
To where?
Yeah, to Texas Tech.
No way.
Yeah.
I can personally bring myself to go to Texas Tech. But
that's why I am now in this industry.
Yeah,
Hi. Yeah, I was in varsity soccer. When I was a freshman, I ended up getting the call to be in varsity.
No way.
Yeah. And then they accidentally put me in tennis. And it was a mistake, like, on the counseling side. And then I ended up doing tennis for a whole semester. And they're like, do you want to join, like, our varsity tennis? I was like, no. I was a very active kid.
Yeah.
Like, I loved it. And then I went into theater and I loved it. But I loved more of helping out with, like, the building portion of it.
I see.
So I would be acting and be in front of people.
Design?
Set design. Yeah. And I enjoyed that. Though I was supposed to be, like, acting. And that was my course. I would, like, ask, can I go over there and help them out to build like the set for Peter Pan? And then I would be building the set for Peter Pan. Like, I liked more of that background of getting your hands dirty and building. Like, I'm sure you can ask anyone. They'll be like, oh, Dani's super butch. Like, give me a chainsaw. Like, I'll start cutting things up and building. I love to build.
Plenty axes I can give you.
You might not want to give me an axe on Friday the 13th. I can tell you that.
Good point. A shovel, right? No, I don't want that. This is terrible. Terrible.
You say a shovel, and every time I'm headed to Guadalajara to see the guys, I'm just like, is my 6-foot like hole ready for me to go take a nap in? And then they just laugh, and I'm just like, yeah, that's me and shovels. But no, I was very active. It was very like that high school life. I was a stand leader. I don't know if you're aware.
What is that?
So a stand leader is this club. It's like, and I hate that this is how it's going to come out, and everyone's going to laugh that's in school, but it's like this club that you get invited to, and it's essentially like, now that I look at it, I was like, we were all so douchey. Like, it's like the cool kids.
Okay.
But you're basically only invited like through like your counseling, or if someone is already in there, and then they invite you to come on board. But you're at every football game. You're at, you're a stand leader. Like, you're hanging out. Yeah. I love sports, by the way.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I was at every game every week. I was like, what is wrong with me?
Wait, so can we, not to, this is by no means reductive. Were you one of the popular kids?
Yeah.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
My mind is blown now. Because this is kind of a class war, because I was a nerd.
But I was a nerd too.
I never had any I had never had any opportunity to be cool. And this is not comparative. I just like it because it's turned into a TV sitcom. Right?
You know what's weird though, Mike, though? And I noticed this, and this is kind of where I started to separate myself from a lot of things and learn. I noticed that, at least in my high school, they based a lot of stuff based off of the neighborhood that you lived in.
Ah, right.
So I had really awesome friends, and they lived on like another side, and the side wasn't known for being like the best side. Mm-hmm. But because they lived in those certain areas, they weren't up to par with, well, we can invite you to come to this hangout. You could sit at this table. You can,
classism in a way.
Yeah. And like, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I got to see that at a very early age where it didn't make sense to me. And I didn't care about it. I mean, Well, yeah. Also, when you have like such a privileged life, like you don't, it's
Well,
not
you
doing.
never question it. You're like, well, this is life, right? And you never think of
I was
what
just like,
alternatives.
honestly, I was like, this is fucking weird. Like, this isn't this serious.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was what 15. I was like, I was like, you guys are weird. Like, this is the things that you're looking at. Like,
Yeah.
what? This is weird. But then, I mean, my school had kids rolling in Corvettes. My school had like these kids being able to leave and like go do whatever, and they were fine with it. Like,
Wow.
it wasn't nothing like it is right now.
Interesting.
So, got to experience that a lot earlier, but I think maybe of doing all these activities and being like involved in all these things and then knowing everyone, but then also like that thing of like, well, you live here where we all live.
Mm-hmm.
We can all hang out, like party at your house, no party at my house. And I'm just like, what? It became one of those things.
Well, so then I ask, because I know you from Condesa and Fortaleza, and maybe even before that, but what was the move? Was it an injury? Was it I don't want to do sports, I don't want to be part of the system that drove you to be in hospitality when you had the scholarship in Texas? That's athletic, right? Texas.
I mean, I graduated when I was 17.
Okay.
And my family was very, like, I want to say every Mexican household, you're not allowed to work because education comes first.
I see.
So I had never worked ever. And I kind of came up with this thing of nothing that a parent wants to hear at that time of age of, I want to study art, like, and my mom was like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with you? I was like, I want to do art. I had cousins that were architectures. I had lawyers and my brother, my sister. It's like, we had like realtors, like all that. And there's this girl that's doing all these like academic things, and it's just like, I want to study art. Like I fucking love art.
Yeah,
like I love it. Like I want to study that. I was so involved in it. And my mom's like, no, like go study to go be a lawyer. And I'm like, no. She was like, you're so good at fighting with people, go be a lawyer. And I was like,
Compelling.
I don't want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, and she's just like, no, like you can do it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. So they came to the conclusion that I was not going to go study to be a doctor or be a lawyer or any of that. And I started looking at, school like for art. And it turned into my mom and dad had gotten divorced at the time. And I told her, I was like, do you ever want to like go meet someone or go do something? And she had at the time, at least. And he wanted to get married.
Oh.
And he wanted to get married and he wanted her to move with him. And I mean, I had just turned 17. And she had a conversation with me, asked me how I felt. I was like, go live your life, go enjoy it. You're not that old. Like, do your thing. That's always been my mentality. Like when anyone asks any sort of advice, do what you feel is right for you.
Yeah.
Because my response is not always going to be the best. And if something goes wrong, I don't want you to be like, well, you told me, or I am not the reason you missed an opportunity. Yes, you are my mother and I love you and I will always love you and adore you and respect you. And you've given me more than I could ask for. I mean, no one knows this, but I was an adopted kid.
Oh, no kidding.
So my brain with all of that and my relatives is always like, whatever makes you feel good, I will vouch for you. Even if it's the worst thing that you could do, I will be on the side clapping.
Yeah.
If you're calling me the next day saying like, help me go hide this body, I will help you. And I won't ask any questions.
6-foot hole in Guadalajara with the shovel.
Yeah.
That's why you're ready, isn't it?
I was like, I'm not going to ask any questions, but I'm there,
Yeah.
And I told her, go for it. Everyone around was like, what is wrong with you? Like, she's a kid. I'm like, I'm not a kid. Like, I'm fine. But because of that, I wasn't able to jump on the board of, if I take this scholarship, then I've never had a car. I've never driven. So it put in my brain an immediate sense of like, all right, you need to find a job now. You need to go do this to make sure that you can get your first apartment and get your first vehicle. Like I immediately blocked that out of my way because I was like, there's no way. I'm not ready for this. I need to prepare myself for the essentials and then gradually maybe go back to that, even if I have to pay for it now. And for me, it was like, as long as I'm not holding someone back and I'm very well capable of taking care of myself, we're going to be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. And that happened. It got my first apartment, embarrassingly enough, in the Galleria area in Houston. Yeah. My friends are like, oh my God, that's so cool. I was like, no, I'm working a lot. And I got my first car. And I mean, from then on, it was just a work life at 17, nonstop. And now at 33, it's still been nonstop. Yeah. And I love it, to be honest. Like, I had my moments of before even being 19 of like struggling of like having to choose like, do you like this more? Or do you want to live a life like this? Do you want to go back to even having that minor struggle of like this bill is coming up? But that's part of growing up, you know? Like I had never worked ever. And I just told myself, look at how you feel right now. See if you want to visit that again. If you don't, then work your ass off.
Yeah.
And that's what it became.
It's a very similar kind of story. Folks, a little bit different kind of situation. But yeah, 17 on, I never looked back.
Yeah.
Working like all the time.
Same.
And I'm like totally fine with it. But there's one distinction for me that when I mentioned this conversation I had with my dad, I think my dad was always his best at work.
Yeah.
I'm good, very good at work, getting better. But I always wanted to be my best in these kinds of scenarios. Do you think you're your best version of yourself at work? Or is it the same as home?
It's different from home, to be honest. And I can completely throw that out there. I think at home, I'm somebody else. I'm more quiet at home.
Sure.
I'm more quiet. I'm more with hanging out with my pups or with Chris.
Yeah.
Or watching trash TV because TLC just gives me that content. And I'm like, how dare they? But at work, I feel like I could do a lot better. But I feel like I am at least my best right now.
Yeah.
I'm not my best maybe when I'm not feeling like good, like health wise, but as of right now, giving it my best because I feel like that's what everyone around deserves, to say the least. I get a lot of times when I have friends that are like, hey, you're in the city. Like, how are you not tired? I'm like, I am tired, but it's not fair if I'm coming in and these people haven't seen me to give them some sort of different energy that I gave my last city.
Yeah.
You know, I want to make sure that that's always up to par, and that if anything that I've always said, and it sounds a little crazy, is like, you can say I'm an asshole. You can say that maybe she just likes to overproofs too much, or she can be kind of standoffish, or usually people that don't know me or whatever.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I could say would probably like target me at most is someone speaking on like my work ethic. And that's one thing that I don't allow and that I never want to be seen under. So I always make sure that when I'm working, I'm working and everything is going good.
So this is going to be a dumb question for some, but good for maybe yes. I don't know. We'll see. Aquarius, sun, but Virgo, double Virgo. You're Virgo. You got any Cancer in there?
I have Virgo, Taurus, and Scorpio.
Oh, jeez.
I had some sort of Kris Jenner in there, I guess.
Say. And this is, I'm sure that many other people have covered astrology much wider and much more accurately than I have. But I think it's a fun little game of sorts. But the Virgo thing, you're pretty organized, are you not?
Yes, just not at home.
You're pretty organized for work, aren't you?
Yes, very.
Because home seems like this whole other kind of respite from work. And it's like, I can breathe a little bit different. I can be a little bit different. I don't have to be the work self, and I understand that kind of difference. So we saw each other most recently in Guadalajara. Probably about a month ago, a little over a month ago.
November?
Yeah, November. Oh, yeah,
the end of October.
Yeah,
late
that's
October.
Right.
Late October.
And I finally got to, and I'm wearing a Don Fulano shirt. This was not intentional by you. I just like this.
I was going to ask you earlier. I was like, are you going to pull a Fuerte?
No.
Really good juice, by the way.
It is. It's great. And I was immediately coming back from that trip, I was like, I got to go buy these things that I'd tried before but didn't have at the house.
Yeah.
But how did that happen? Now, I remember kind of first meeting you with the Casa Lumbre team, and there were some things that happened there, which is fine. But what was that first conversation like was it with Steph or was it with Guillermo or Kobe when you got introduced to Fortaleza?
I actually knew them way before. I knew them way before I took any sort of ambassador role.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of consultation in Houston for bars. Got to open 6 spots out there. So the last spot that I opened, well, not the last one because it was 2 more after, but was all agave focused.
Cool. Is that the Once Calle one?
Yeah. And when I was helping them with the program and all that stuff, I mean, there was literally like 120 bottles back there. Jesus. Things that I had never even seen.
Yeah.
So I went through a deep dive of like picking everything up and learning it. And I was just like, what the hell is this? And I figured my staff was very young. They were all under 21. Well, not all of them, most of them. but they were curious. And I think that because we had monthly meetings of getting to learn like the products with them and like, I'm gonna walk you through like this menu, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I felt like they were getting tired of seeing me. And I was like, what can I change for them to maybe listen to someone else that's on the field that does this, that's touring, talking about it, that has been doing this longer than I have. And at that moment, Kel with the Maverick team had been bringing the guys down to do all these things. And that's how we kind of got introduced. This was 2018, I want to say. Cool. And he brought Stefano and Eduardo from Arete and Steph from Fortaleza. And they came in to talk to the group. And it went very well. I mean, the girls were all like, they were like, oh my God, I love these guys. And I was just like, so this is how you guys pay attention? I was like, okay, let me start calling like the guys to come down and do these things. And that's kind of how we got introduced and just made like this connection, talked and stuff. And then it wasn't until I want to say maybe 2 years later, Misty, Kalkofen, is a very, very dear friend. And she invited me to her birthday, and the birthday just so happened to be at Fortaleza. Oh. So we headed out there. It was my first time going to Guadalajara. And this was like 2 years later after that. I went out there, and I mean, after the guys had talked, it was just kind of when doing the consultation of really talking about what Fortaleza was and doing, I mean, before the hype was really there. And still sharing like that story of like, what they had behind them, even with Arete and all these things. And everyone that had come to visit, these bars and just doing that. So then 2 years pass, go out there for her birthday. And then I'm going to the table to sit down. And then this dude gets up and he's like, oh, have a seat here. And I'm looking at him like, wait, I know you. And I was like, that's fucking Steph. Like, what? And I told him, I was like, I know you. And then he's like, huh? And like, we're looking at each other. I was like, yeah. And we just like reconnected at that. Oh. And then the next day we were at the distillery with everyone and celebrating her. And I mean, the rest is kind of like history of
how many years now?
I mean, what, this was 20? We're going on 25.
Yeah. So
I mean, knowing them since 2018 and then just kind of spreading the word and stuff. I mean, it's been some time.
Something that I'm eternally grateful for you setting up time for me to speak with Guillermo, which
he's the best.
He's great. And I wish I had more time with him. I think everybody that talks to him wishes they had more time with him. That's how you know when you pass that you're going to have great stories.
Yeah.
Is that people are like, man, I really want to talk to that person more. I love that. But it was something that we covered, and I talked to you shortly thereafter at the party at the distillery outside the cave, and you're like, it was moving for you for whatever kind of number of personal reasons, but one that you said that it really kind of captured the culture of Fortaleza, right? That it was like, y'all aren't big, you do things quality, you're a family, and you were talking about some other health stuff that they were there for you and they just took care of you. Have you ever been kind of in a work situation like that where it is a family like that?
No, never. I mean, I worked hospitality as a bartender. I felt like I had that family. As a bar manager, I felt like creating and building that family together. And I had that. It was very different. If one of my employees was ever like, I need this, I'd be there. I'd jump in. Like, I'm, not the memes of the manager that comes in and does absolutely nothing. Yeah. It was just about being more present because when I was a bartender, I didn't really have that other from my other bartender coworkers. So I wanted to always create some sense of unity. And I know it's super played out and we see it all the time, but is it really there? And I always felt that. So jumping in as my first ambassador role with a different category, it was before tequila, it was before gin. I was like, maybe this is where this is going to come from. This is what I see. But it was very different, and I just think that companies themselves, maybe when they're not that small, they just run like at a different pace. Yeah. And I had never been around that. It was more of a focus on the ambassador itself. And for the life that I live, like, I don't feel like it's about me. I've always been pulled and intrigued by the stories, by, their way of production methods, everything that they have to share. But more than anything, like, how can I get this producer on a level where people can see like what they're doing, what they've done, what they built, like the generations it's gone through, and for me, it tied it with my dad and his entire family of all having botanical shops. And that to me was just like a story when people ask me, how the hell did you get into this? I've had people that come up and they're like, oh, well, American Horror Story. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. Trust me. Like, this is how we grew. Like, when I was a kid, it was all medicinal. It was all about this.
Mhm.
And I learned at that moment that it was more about teaching and for people to understand, like the people that do have those questions of like, you can ask it and there's an answer for it. We can assume we can build something based on their aura or their
Right.
their sign, but it's usually not it. There's always something more to share. And that's why I've always been so pulled into this industry of learning like what I'm talking about, even if I'm not representing it, to at least be like, oh, well, they do this, you like this is very similar to this, and never really kind of stepping on another brand or something different. Like,
That is what's so strikingly different about the Fortaleza trip, right? Is
Mhm.
it's like, nah, we're doing this together. This is a
Yeah.
community, which
Yeah.
kind of comes. I'm gonna say it, but you can say there's a bourbon community, but there's not. There could be people that get together and drink the same 5 bottles. Sure, is that community? I don't know. Is it about lifting others up? Not particularly. Is it about learning about new distilleries that are busy? Not particularly. So going to this trip and visiting Don Fulano and Arete and then Fortaleza is like, oh, y'all are mates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is like the neighborhood. You guys are doing this together. And that was something that was really strikingly different from a branding perspective or
Yeah.
from a marketing perspective. So it was really refreshing to see that. So the latest chapter, or shall we call it concurrent chapter,
Yeah.
with Fortaleza, it was with Condesa Gin.
Yeah.
And
doing both.
I mean, I'm sure you can juggle anything, and I'm sure you'll take 5 jobs if you can find the time for it and be your best self in terms of the professional Dani through all of those. How did that introduction occur?
The introduction with Condesa, man, they just have such a badass producing.
Mhm.
She is phenomenal. Her
Yeah,
name
you were
is
talking.
Ilham.
Yeah.
Adore her, adore everything about her. And I mean, her family was super anti-alcohol.
Oh, really?
So
Religious basis? Or-
yeah.
oh, yeah.
And so it was more of one of those things, like, you know how I was telling you, like, my family was like, if you're not going to learn this, then figure it out. And
Yep.
for her, it was like, you need to go do this. And her grandma was, working with distilling, not distilling that, but more of making medicine,
Oh,
more of
cool.
natural things.
Botanical based, I'm
Yes,
sure. Yeah.
botanical based, as you guys have all heard the Condesa story. That it's, kind of inspired on shamanistic rituals.
Mhm.
Why shamanistic is because back then, like, they would refer to it as that because they don't want to call someone a witch.
No, of course.
Though, like, I'll go out there. I mean, you've seen me. If I roll into Fortaleza, they're like, Brujas here. And I'm just like, what's up, guys? Which sounds better than the devil because that's what they were calling me for a while.
Sure.
But yeah, it was just, I fell in love with everything that she was doing and I wanted to help them. I wanted to be present, but help them find someone for them. Like I was still doing things with Fortaleza.
So you were trying to like basically headhunt for them.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
You didn't think you were the person when
yeah.
of course you probably were the person all along.
Yeah, correct. Like I was scouting and I was like, I'm sending you this recommendation. Like this person would be great. But at the time, I had already brought it into some establishments of like, hey, you should. It got to the point where I was going in, obviously, with stock issues with Forta. They were like, well, what do you recommend? It became that in the cities of like, what do you think is good? I'm like, actually, give this gin a shot.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's separately macerated. This is the things that they work with. And they were all like, wait, I want to try it. I want to try it. So I reached out. I was like, can you send me some bottles? I have a very dear friend. He is the market manager for California. And we used to actually work together back in Casalumbre.
Oh, no way.
And he left to go with Condesa. And when we chatted, it was the same feel of like something different, something new. And we've highly felt that we need to do this for Ilham. Like she is great. The guys are great. Like, how can we share this story? We hear multiple times, like people are romanticizing this, but I think if anyone knows me, they know that I'm not going to jump in behind or talk about a product that maybe doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like I feel very tied to this project.
I mean, it seems like perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
I mean,
it almost
honestly.
felt like a circle.
Yeah,
Like, I'm like,
yeah.
dude, I grew up with this, and even with a bond with like Fortaleza, it's like that familiar bond that I had in Mexico. So I was like, this all makes sense to me. But obviously, like my heart and soul are in tequila.
Of course. Yeah.
So I wanted to find them like the person for this. But while doing so, I also was like, well, if you guys want to launch, I can go ahead and launch for you. And while we find the right person.
Yeah.
And I got to launch it in every city in Texas. And then came in the talk of like, what if you come with us? And I was like, man, I would love that, but my heart is kind of here
Yeah.
right now, and it's been there for a while. So yeah, I'll help you. And somehow they were like, well, what if you
Series
can,
of what ifs in it.
what if
Yeah.
you can, still do this and do this?
Mhm.
Obviously, knowing which one's priority
Yeah,
right now. And I was like, of course. They're like, you think you can handle that? And I'm like, don't tell a Virgo, can you handle that? Because they can't handle it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I talked to my team, I talked to the guys, and it worked. And I love like the respect that they have for each other. And it's a non-compete.
Yeah.
They don't even see it like that. And it's so nice, just yesterday, Mitch is Fortaleza in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he oversees all of California.
Yeah.
But he reached out to me, not yesterday, 2 days ago, and he was like, hey, I'm over here in San Diego at this account. I am, talking about a Condesa, and can you get like your counterpart that's over here, like to come meet up over here at this account? Like they're so excited. They want to get to meet him and know more about the product. And I had one of those moments where I'm like, this is so fucking nice that, when they're out there, they're like, well, our coworker, our friend, works with this brand that I think would be such a great fit. And I find myself also doing that at times where I'm just like, hey, and even Steph will be like in New York and he's like, look what's back here. We're drinking Condesa. Like the support has been so nice. And I have not seen that. I mean, I've worked with brands and I haven't seen it. So I thought, I was like, I am somewhere very special right now. And I love where I'm at.
I love it. And it's just like beautiful. This is a shitty corporate word and it should be retired, but it's synergistic.
Yeah, it is.
It is this kind of blend of colors and experiences and everything. And I like that you said that it comes full circle.
Yeah.
Because in a way it does. And you don't ever know why you're in a position sometimes, or you learn about something at length and you're like, oh, that was cool. And then 5 years later, like, oh, but I can combine it with this other thing.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a new chapter in your life.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions left for you.
Okay.
Well, before I ask the questions, because everybody's be like, why don't you talk about Winter Blend? Because we're drinking it. I'm drinking too much of the 2024 Winter Blend.
No, I didn't share it, guys. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, I have no idea. Somehow it would just arrived and it's good and it's delicious. And I particularly love cream sherry. So if you like that, this is going to be a delicious thing. And I hope you're all envious and don't be that way. Just drink the thing and buy it. Okay. All right. So
yeah, actually do buy. Don't be that person. Also, guys, if you see it somewhere for 700, 800, don't do that. Don't. Well, that's not us doing that. And I'm going to continue to say that. Someone was just recently like arguing with Steph yesterday about like, this is a marketing tactic that you guys do. You guys are actually producing.
This is fucking bollocks. Yeah.
And I'm like, and this is someone that toured the distillery, and I'm like, learn from that. You would know why. The way that we produce, it's not. We're not hiding anything. We're not.
What do you have to gain from that?
What are we here?
You already don't have enough product of everything else to be able to.
It's wild. No, it's just no. I was pulling the stats for it, but
yeah, it's fine. But it's delicious, and I love it, and I'm so glad I got to finally sit there. And I'll tell you this: texturally, this is different than the previous releases. That's the biggest thing that I noticed. It's just that pinch of kind of high acidity with like lemon peel, but it's creamier. Had you not told me it's cream sherry, I'm not sure I could have guessed that. But texturally, this is different and more tied together maybe than previous releases.
It might be a little different too, because this was brought to me in August as like a birthday gift, but it was also in a plastic jug.
I see.
So if anyone has seen the plastic Fortaleza jugs, I had it in that. So I think that could be changing the profile of it a little bit. I mean, it's been since August too. But
it's well integrated is really ultimately what I'm saying, and I quite love it.
I'll share with you from the bottle.
Yes, perfect.
When I get that.
I would love that.
And I'll bring you some to have.
And we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what the difference is. So this is, I don't know how you're going to answer this question. I ask everybody this question. I asked Guillermo this question too, I think. I mean, everybody, but I didn't have a lot of time with him. But so you're sipping the Winter Blend 2024 with anybody, living or deceased, but I'm going to go and confine it to art. What artist, living or deceased, would you love to have a drink with anywhere in the world with this mark?
So you said art. So I'm actually going to go into like the writing spectrum of art.
Sure.
And it's going to sound a little crazy, but I would love to. I myself will have a still strength. Excuse me.
Perfect. Right.
They can have the Winter Blend 2024. But it would be with Henry Miller.
Oh my gosh. Tropical cancer, right?
Yeah. It would be with Henry Miller A jazz bar.
Mm.
I have so many questions. I have collected all his books.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that he writes. I love his train of thought. I mean, I started reading his books when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, what? Like it opened the curiosity to Europe.
Mm.
Because that's where every time he was writing, he was in Europe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this place giving you that, wanting to experience those things. So I would love to do that. And honestly, maybe even share gin with
Of
him.
course he would be drinking gin, too.
Yeah, I would share gin with him. And maybe tequila wise, probably if I could bring someone, it'd probably be with my brother. Because he was such an advocate for tequila. Always drinking like the shittiest things ever, though. I mean, going to the gas station in Mexico and buying like a $20 little bottle and drinking it. I would love for him to get to taste. He didn't get to taste Fortaleza. Passed in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't get to try it. So I would love to share that. So he'd be like, excuse me? Like, what is this? Like, I would break it down like that way. I know you asked for 2024 winter blend.
You obviously had answers for this. Sometimes people don't. It's too vast for them, so they don't know who they are.
I think about these things all the time, though. When I'm out somewhere, I'm like, I would love to be sitting here with this person. Yeah. Or what would they be doing? Or what would they be drinking? Or
that's the whole...
Share a martini with Henry Miller and share some Fortaleza with my brother.
That's incredible. Yeah. So the last question I have for you, and this maybe is impossible to answer, but there were some health things that have happened to you in the past year. And to say that you were terminal is probably not accurate, but let's say that it got to a point where mentally you were thinking about, well, maybe I'm not going to make it through this thing.
I think about that all the time, actually.
I imagine, right? And I don't want to assume, but because you're so even-tempered, like, well, as you said, we'll find a solution, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's I'm very pragmatic and the same way, utilitarian like that. But in the wake of that, is there anything that you do differently now because you've thought about your life in that way?
Yes. And I'm going to say this, and I want at least anyone that listens to take it, and especially if you're in this industry, to be honest, listen to your body. It's so important. We get so riled up in such a good time, and sometimes we're like, it's just a hangover, or no, we've got this. Like, we were built for this. This is why we're hired. Right. I think listen to your body. It's one of the things that I've done completely different. If at any moment I start to feel like, hey, I'm not craving this, then don't push it. Yeah. Living a much healthier lifestyle now. And obviously alcohol is not to blame. I think it's just us that we don't know how to halt it, or stuff, setting those boundaries for sure was something that I learned a little along like the way, which I wish I would have known that way earlier. But it's just a complete change. And no, getting sick with last year and getting diagnosed, it's not terminal at all, and I'm so happy for that. But I do think that having that switch of, hey, let's get your shit together, how can we make ourselves feel better, and just listen to that.
I think that's really perfect, because there's a stasis in our bodies, and if it becomes broken, or there's something that stings or hurts or pains or bellows us over,
we don't listen to it.
We don't.
We dismiss
it. Or we drink through it, or we work through it.
Yeah. Or like just sleep through it. You're going to be fine. But you're making it worse, you know? And then another thing is just do whatever the hell you want to do.
Sure.
But be responsible.
Yeah. Grace. And that's the whole time. What was the mantra of the Fortaleza trip? Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated the whole time.
Stay hydrated on water. Don't stay hydrated on tequila.
Which is only 40% water. So you want, 60% water.
Well, now people know why there's no stock, because they're drinking it on these trips.
I know.
Okay? No. But stay hydrated. Be healthy. Go get checked.
Yes.
Your little engine light comes on. Take care of yourself. That's all I've got to say.
This is very good. I think it's a beautiful advice and stuff that I'm even recently learning myself that is quite important. So finally we got to do this, though.
Yeah.
And it's really a pleasure getting
on
to know
Friday
more
the
about you.
13th.
On Friday the 13th.
I wouldn't want to be with anyone else.
Well, I appreciate
Drinking
that.
tequila.
Drinking tequila,
on
and
this
it's
day.
gray and rainy, and I feel like we should listen to the Smiths here in a second. This is the kind of vibe, just for anybody wondering what it feels like in this room. That is exactly.
Shout out to you for not saying Queens of Stone Age.
Well,
after I was talking about jazz, now
right.
we're like,
I don't know. This is foggy London town.
But on my way here, I was listening to Black Sabbath.
Oh,
so
really?
It was great.
That
yeah.
would work too, actually.
Yeah.
I think those drenched Tony Iommi guitar tones. But Dani, thanks so much for taking the time out. We'll talk soon, yeah. And thanks for sharing the tequila.
Of course. There's more to come.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, there we have it. Dani Taylan from Houston, Fortaleza, Condesa Gin. Really amazing person. I've really enjoyed the past couple of years getting to know her and be involved with a couple kind of creative things together and these conversations. And for the record here, so the Winter Blend 2024 from Fortaleza is amazing. I got to try it. We get to try it out of plastic. We got a picture of it here posting with the podcast. But here are some of the specifics. Now, Dani says if you want specific ABVs, to contact her directly and do that. And if you're going to be that much of a stickler about something that's delicious, fine. But just, ease up a little bit, lighten up a little bit. But the Winter Blend 2024 Fortaleza was 2,860 liters of sherry, 4-month blend with 4,000 liters of reposado at 3 months, and then the 1,000 liters of repo aged at 10 months on ex-American whiskey barrels. Sounds pretty good, right? It was really a pleasure getting to finally sit down with Dani. And I love gin, I love tequila, I love mezcal. And so I think she's going to have such an amazing career in this industry. I mean, she already has. And just to see the kinds of things she's getting into and how much respect the community has for her and just how much support she has. So, Dani, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. I can't wait to see what you're up to next. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how much you're enjoying cat sitting and they're laying by your feet right now, or if you're thinking, should I really be watching House again for like the 10th time? These damaged, drunk doctor types, they're really the kind of folks that I should be looking up to. So please, keep dancing.